Everybody. Sorry I'm a minute late. I had to restart my computer. It's always something. All right. Chastity gave me the go-ahead to introduce myself, so I will do that and get this started. Thanks so much for attending today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Sorry in advance that I will be switching back and forth somewhat because I do want to share my slides, but also show y'all some things on the library website. So if you have never met me before, I'm Christiana Kyneth. I'm the health sciences librarian at Sherrod Library. I've been at ETSU since fall of 2021. So coming up on 2 years almost already. And I'm here today to talk about the library's role in promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I have a long list of our various initiatives to talk about. And I want to start out with a quick question to get you all thinking. So when you think of libraries and diversity, what comes to mind? And you might be like, nothing, I've never really thought of that. But if you do have any associations there, feel free to share in the chat. The question was, what do you think of when you think of libraries and diversity? Yes, those are all great. Yes, the idea that libraries are for everyone, diverse materials, as Sarah specified, outside the Western canon. Yeah, so some other things you might have in mind because of recent news are book bans, book challenges, diverse book displays, all that kind of stuff. So we definitely do aim to collect diverse materials, which I'll talk about a little later in the presentation. But one reason I wanted to start out with this question is in looking through all of the different things that we do at Sherrod, there is more that we can provide in addition to providing diverse materials, although that is really important too. So you can see here the 4 themes that I thought of while I was preparing for this presentation. And at first, my very librarian-like instinct was to want to sort all of the initiatives into each little theme box, but that's not really how wildlife works, and that's not really the goal here. So I'm just going to generally ask you to keep these in mind as we go through. So we just talked about some examples of providing information, and then there's creating an inclusive environment. Oops, I'm hearing from chat that you can't actually see my presentation. Okay, I'll try sharing my desktop.
You can see that now.
You can see it now?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. So I'll go back to my cover slide. So that's what you missed while I was talking. And here's my theme slide. So the themes that I identified in terms of what Sherrod Library does in terms of DEI, we provide information, like I've talked about. We try to create an inclusive environment, which includes some of those same things. But I also thought about one thing that is really important to me is meeting students' needs in a practical and physical or material sense, like helping students afford books, giving students quiet places to study, those kind of things. And the last thing that we've done is falls under employee development and sort of internal to the library processes to try to do better, basically. Okay, so first up, I do want to highlight our book displays. Unfortunately, I don't have that many images of them, but we have started to include a few in the Shared Library blog, which is written by Sarah Bull, who's on a call right now. Oh, and another thing I've done throughout this presentation is somewhere on the right side of the slide, I've included the name and contact information for whoever is in charge of each thing I'm going to talk about, because as you'll see, this is very much a group effort. So Tiffany is our executive aide, but she's also has a wealth of experience in all different kinds of libraries and has been helping us put together book displays over the past couple of years. And here you can see some that we've done. There's usually one on the first floor between the staircases, and also one on the third floor usually next to the juvenile book collection. So I'll just quickly show some images from our Poetry Month celebration in April. One thing I really appreciate that Tiffany makes an effort to do is include diverse authors, diverse voices in whatever topic she's covering. So not that there's anything wrong with the classics necessarily, but we definitely have poetry books beyond poems written by straight white men. So here's the collection she put out, and you can check out books from the displays. So if you see something that catches your eye, feel free. So, okay, that is probably enough on book displays, because like I said, that's one of the things you probably all have heard of already. So next up, in a similar vein, providing information, we have subject guides. And we are looking to expand this list. So if you have ideas for a guide that you would like to see that we don't have, please do reach out with ideas. Or at the end of the presentation, we'll have some time for questions and discussion. So feel free to give us any ideas across any of these topics at the end. So we have sustainability, equity and inclusion in instruction. We have an LGBTQ resources guide. There's a lot here, so including government resources and streaming media. So definitely check that out. And we have an anti-racism guide. And we also have a children's resources guide. So if you didn't know, the library has a children's book section on the third floor, which is for education majors, people with kids, people who know kids, anyone who wants to check out a children's book. So if you need some help picking out some good titles, we have a guide here. So everything from award winners, banned books, classics. There's a social justice guide, and also some 0 to 6 aged titles, including this culture and diversity list for young readers. Okay, so that is our special topics guide. And like I said, watch this space. I'm sure there's a lot more we could do there. Next up is our Diverse Characters Book Club, which is run by 2 librarians, Lydia and Jonathan. They are very involved in our DEI efforts, so they will pop up on several future slides. And it's been going on for at least 3 semesters now. It's aimed at ETSU students, and they meet usually twice during the semester to discuss whatever book they've picked for that semester. You can see on the screen that they did Sing Unburied Sing by Jesmyn Ward. This past semester, they read The Guncle by Stephen Rowley. And they also we've also done a book called The Girl with the Louding Voice by Abi Dare. And speaking of providing physical resources, one thing that is great is the first 40 students to register for the book club get a free copy of the book. So if you have students who might be interested in this, please do let them know. We also have a lending technology and personal librarian program, which is run by Jonathan Wilson, who is our distance and online education librarian and coordinator. So there are two aspects to this. Oh, I didn't link the guide on this page, so let me grab that from the library website. So the lending technology program was started in 2020 using CARES Act funding to provide laptops and hotspots for students who were lacking in the technology at home that they needed for like joining in on the online learning. Okay, hold on, let me get that in the chat. There's a lot of information on this slide. So if you want to know more about the lending technology, it will be here, or you can ask Jonathan. So to qualify for this program, students apply and then they are approved through the Dean of Students office. And they pick up the laptops in shared library. So far it's been our folks at the Ask Us desk, which is the big desk on the first floor, right when you walk in. Those folks have been in charge of this program, actually giving out the laptops, maybe helping students if they have a problem with them. Things may be changing this upcoming semester. I'm not 100% sure, so I can't give details on that, but Jonathan is again the person to ask about that. So this is specifically aimed at students who are low income or minority students or veterans. Also, I believe first generation and transfer students are considered for this. So, and I know the feedback that we've gotten from this program has been really positive. It really helped students out to be able to, if you don't have very good internet at home, how can you join? How can you join any of the things that are on Zoom? So that is a good example of meeting a physical practical need. And then along with that, we also have a personal librarian service, which is also run by Jonathan, a very busy man. And students who are in the lending technology program, I believe they're all also in the personal librarian program, as well as all first generation and transfer students. So basically, Jonathan is the point person for them. So they get an extra email every month with library information about library services and upcoming events, campus events. And he also can serve as a point person if they have questions and problems they need to solve on campus. So, and here is also on here links to resources that students might need. And as far as I know, the personal librarian program has been successful as well with, probably we all know it's pretty hard to get students to open emails, but I have heard that Jonathan has a pretty high rate of success with that and gets students to answer back and, actually reach out. So I think that's also really cool. A little bit more personal for those students who may be less familiar with academia and how everything works in higher ed or in the library. Like we have a giant kind of intimidating, always being rearranged library building. I don't want it to be intimidating, but regardless of your background, if you're a freshman or any year in school, really, it's not necessarily easy to navigate the first time. Also, I didn't say before, but if you have any questions as we go on, feel free to ask in the chat. So we also have a lot going on with our open and affordable course materials. And that is all under the purview of Ashley Sergiadis, our digital scholarship librarian. So the main goal, well, okay, first, if you're not familiar with open materials or open course materials, it's similar to open access journal articles, which are ideally are supposed to be freely available online. And so open course materials would be like a textbook or readings for a class that are freely available online. So one thing that we're really trying to do is reduce the cost of textbooks, because we know that's really burdensome for students. And of course, the less financial resources a student has, the more of a burden hundreds of dollars in textbooks is. So let me go to Ashley's guide to open educational resources. That is here under faculty resources, which is also a good place to go if you can't find something library related. Okay. So here's the link to that. And one thing that I thought was really impactful is at one of our open access events, Ashley had students fill out these forms saying how much did they spend on textbooks and what else could they have done with that. And if you can't read this student said, I spent $300 on textbooks and course materials this semester, which I could have spent on rent. And this student spent $220 that they could have spent on travel. And this person spent $600, which they could have spent on rent or the necessities of life. And if you go through, every student is saying the same thing. $500, it could have been a car payment. $200, it could have been spent on fixing your car. So I feel like it's a really good way to illustrate, this is real money that students are spending on textbooks that could go to other really essential, that could serve other really essential life functions for them. So one program that we have is the electronic textbook reserves. And what this is we use some of our funding to try to purchase e-textbooks that have an unlimited license, which means that every student can access the book at the same time. And you may be asking yourself, isn't that how all ebooks work? Unfortunately, no. Publishers, in order to make more money, have some ebooks that can only be accessed by 1 or 2 users at one time. So that doesn't really work very well for a textbook that every student in a class or in multiple classes need to be accessing all the time throughout the semester. But sometimes we can pay more to get an unlimited license to a book. So then students don't have to pay, they can just use the ebook through the library website. So if you want this for your class, it depends on what is available through the publishers. So we can't promise that we can find this better free option, but we will, I say we, I'm not in charge of this. The collection development folks in the library will try their best to find access to that textbook. And you would just need to go to this suggest a purchase form and see if we can get that. And you can also click here to see some courses that are already using e-textbooks. So we have a pretty good list here. Yeah, we're up to 291 courses, which I think is great. So all of the students in these classes are saving money. So we've got anthropology. Okay, I'm not going to make you watch me scroll through 200 courses, but yes, question.
I was going to share just for that also you all have been really great with, and I think it's through the library, streaming videos. And so when it comes to DEI resources, there's a lot of really cool stuff out there, and sometimes you don't have it available. But you have purchased licenses that then, of course, the whole university can use, at least for the year, for some videos. Just that's been a great thing as well. I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, thanks so much for chiming in. I'm glad, and thanks for highlighting the streaming sources. I will link everyone to our streaming media resources since you brought that up in case anyone else wants to check it out. Okay, so I'm under A to Z databases and streaming media. You can see some of the databases where we have those. Okay, yes, I almost forgot one very important part of the Open and Affordable Course Materials program, which is that we have an awards program where faculty can apply for funding to help them create or start using open and affordable resources. So one common barrier to switching from an expensive textbook to an openly available online textbook is there may not be the right kind of material for your course. So there are some links over here on the left for helping you find resources that already exist, but there may not be the perfect resource for you, or it may not be at the right level for your students, or it may not be available at the quality that you would want. There definitely are high quality open access resources, but it's up to every person it's up to every individual faculty member to figure out what is out there and if it would work, which is a lot of work, in my understanding. And of course, you can definitely reach out to Ashley for help sorting through all of this. But another option, if you don't find something that is a fit for your course, is to adapt or create your own resource, which of course is also a big ask. Oh, just write a textbook, NBD. No, that is a significant undertaking. So that is one reason this award program exists, to support faculty somewhat during that process. The deadline for the fall has already passed, but you can email Ashley to find out when the next round will go on. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to highlight here. There are different levels of open access. Not everything that's open, you might be able to use it for free, but you might not be given the rights to revise it or remake it, all those kind of things. So there's more details here about what kind of open access materials you would be asked to create. And you will be asked to include them in our repository. And you also see here under the criteria for who receives this award. Oh yes, I forgot, Ashley is on this call. So she says in chat, deadline will be November 15th for spring 2024. Good to know. Thanks so much for chiming in. So one element of the criteria that's used to select projects for funding is we want people to include a consideration of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And Ashley helps with this as well, helping faculty find or create more inclusive, more representative materials, and more accessible materials, whatever that looks like in your discipline. Okay. Any questions about open and affordable resources? All right. So moving on from that, we also have a program called Library Ambassadors, which I was talking a little bit about the library being potentially intimidating. One way that students can get help in a way that may be less intimidating to them is by talking to a library ambassador, who are other ETSU students, specifically APS students, who are hired in the fall, and they receive 2 semesters of information literacy training, mostly by Lydia Gwynn, who is the coordinator for this program. But she also has guest speakers come in sometimes. For example, I talked to them about using CINAHL, our main nursing database. They get trained on government documents and PubMed as well. And after they've had all this information, all this instruction, and learn how to use the library databases, then they are deployed and they have hours that the students are available at various locations around campus, and also on Zoom rooms that students can join. And their goal is just to help students to spread their knowledge and help other students who might be nervous to talk to a librarian but are more comfortable talking to a peer. Help them with their assignments, help them find resources. And of course, if anything they get asked is too complicated or above what they were trained to do, then they'll refer students to librarians. And I'll also mention that one location where you can find them is in the Multicultural Center, which Lydia says is to help them be easily accessible for international students. And on this page, there is a bit more about this program. Let's see. Yes, I wanted to, they don't work in the summer, but I wanted to get this list of other places where you can find them. So this is another resource you can direct your students to for help with classwork. So Burleson Hall, there's someone in the Center for the CFAA, which is first floor of the library. We have someone in Kingsport, which I didn't know, that's very cool. And the as Multicultural Center, as I said, Nix Hall for nursing students mostly, and Wharf Pickle. Actually, when I was doing my presentation for the library ambassadors, it was really cool to hear them talk about how they get asked for help by just random people they know, like their roommate or their friend. So I think it's really cool that we're able to create or help students have these relationships and communicate their skills with each other. And someone in the same vein, we also have support specifically for graduate and international students. Wendy Doucette is our graduate research and instruction librarian. And one thing that she has helped create is the new graduate student survival guide. And so this is a very comprehensive guide with all kinds of resources for students, for grad students who are new to ETSU and also new to the Johnson City area. One thing I really like is they included resources that are within walking distance and are also included on the bus route. So this is just a quick look at the kind of information they've included on here, like health, childcare, shopping. They even listed the closest international grocery stores. So it's a good guide to share for graduate students. And there's also a tab specifically for international students. I'll share that in the chat as well. So we also have designated graduate student study areas. Our unassigned graduate student study lounge, study room is on the 4th floor. And that is card access, but otherwise first come, first serve. There's room for multiple students to study in there. And then we also have assigned graduate student study. So there are 4 rooms that grad students can apply to use as individual study rooms when they're in their thesis or dissertation stage. And they're chosen by lottery, so they're randomly chosen. But this is, and I wish we could provide more than 4, but that's what it is. But this is really important for students who focus better outside of their home or have lots of kids and pets and don't have a quiet space at home, or any other reason like that, where their home is not an ideal study space for the kind of sustained concentration that is needed for writing your thesis and dissertation. And along those lines, Dr. Doucette also runs a grad student boot camp to help grad students master the organizational and writing skills necessary to complete one of these larger projects, which I didn't include in my PowerPoint, actually. I just wanted to mention it. Okay, so we also have some things to help students with mental health. We will have a quiet room for people who need a quiet sensory space, or a prayer meditation room coming soon. I don't have any details on that, but it will be on the 4th floor, which is our quietest study floor. Generally speaking, while we're talking about sensory needs, the 1st floor is the noisiest, good for group work and just students to hang out and talk. But as you go up, the floors get quieter. So the most silent study is on the 4th floor. And ETSU counseling also provides Let's Talk sessions, which are not therapy, but they are an opportunity where students have a discussion group. And I just checked their website recently, and they do still offer one that is in the library on the 3rd floor. So that's an option for students to get an opportunity to share their feelings and have someone supportive. I thought of something else mental health related that I didn't put on here. Well, if I think of it, I'll tell you. Oh, I remembered. You may know this already, but in the fall and the spring, we tend to have relaxing and fun activities for students to do during Dead Week. So we've done all kinds of things. And let's see, this past semester we usually have dogs in or outside the library one day. We have coloring sheets and puzzles out, origami paper. And recently we've started doing a table for rock painting and found that students really enjoyed getting to do that. So that's another thing we do to try to help students have a break in the midst of the finals season. Okay, so moving on to more of the internal processes that we have. One thing that's really important for making things happen is that we have a DEI and Libraries and Archives working group that meets monthly during when classes are in session. And this is a collaborative effort, so it includes Dean David, the Dean of Shared Library, the Medical Library Director, Rachel Walden, as well as the ETSU Archives Director, Jeremy Smith, and other library employees who are interested and have the time to devote to this. So I'm on that as well. And we share information about what is going on in each of our separate libraries or departments. And we also plan projects together. So one thing that we've done since I've been involved that I was able to help out with is planning how to make our hiring practices more inclusive. And one key practice that we used last summer, fall, we hired 2 new library faculty, and we decided to redact identifying information from the resumes and CVs during our first round that we looked at them, because research shows that unconscious bias might lead you to make unfair assumptions about people based on their name, how old they are. I think we redacted what school. No, we didn't. We did not redact what school they went to because our requirement was that they have to have a library degree from an accredited school. So there is some, like, it's a difficult balance what you cannot redact. So for this, all credit goes to William Kate, our business manager, because we don't have access to any features or any software that could do this automatically. So he had to laboriously hand redact all of this. And William is also the person to ask if you have more questions about this process. He is our person who typically works with the HR department. So all the things that I've mentioned here were done in collaboration or with approval from HR. We weren't just going rogue or anything. But in addition to redacting, identifying information, we also started using we started posting the job for a longer amount of time. And we also started sending interview questions ahead of time and posted the jobs on a greater variety of job boards. I don't have a lot of details on that either, but again, that's a question for William. I found this very interesting to be a part of. It feels really good to put into practice things that we hear about, and I feel like the working group is crucial to that. I don't want, in terms of working to make the library more inclusive and equitable and all that good stuff, I don't want to be someone who sits around and says, oh yes, this is the best practice, and then we just don't do anything. So I'm really proud that we were able to take action and change how we do things. And of course, this is a work in progress. I'm sure more things will be changed in the future. But yes, that is how hiring in the library works currently. And along the same lines, I feel like our supervisors here are very encouraging of us to attend DEI-related events and trainings, such as ETSU's annual Equity and Inclusion Conference, and also Moonshot. At the Moonshot session last week, I was called on to answer a question, and the facilitator said that he noticed there were a lot of library people there, and that made me really happy. So we're showing up and attending, but I definitely feel like a key to that is that our supervisors are also doing that. Dean David is doing that. So we know this is a thing that is important and we don't have to feel like we're wasting our time. And sometimes we have other trainings that are helpful. This is something I would like to do more of. Oops. This is something I'd like to do more of in the future. So my supervisor, Rebecca Tolley, who I will talk about more in a minute, arranged for ATSU counseling to come in and do a session that they do on how to help distressed students. This was specifically for the research and instruction librarians because we're the ones who teach sessions or guest lecture in courses or teach courses or meet one-on-one with students in consultation appointments. So we're the ones who are most likely to run across distressed students. And I thought that was really helpful. So I'm sure that there's more I could have put on this slide, but I really wanted to highlight Rebecca Tolley, who I just mentioned, because in 2020, she wrote a book called A Trauma-Informed Approach to Library Services, which, let's see if it will load, was published through the American Library Association, I believe. And if you're familiar with trauma-informed care, she takes those ideas and applies them to library services and the kinds of things that we do. So I think it's really valuable to have someone with that wealth of knowledge here to guide us. I guess in this sense, I mean us as in new librarians, because there's 3 of us who started within the past couple of years who are trying to learn everything about what do we do and how do we do it and how do we do it better in a way that makes students feel safe and comfortable with us. Okay, that is all of the initiatives I wanted to highlight. I just have a brief reflection at the end. I've mentioned some things I'd like us to do more of, and one of those possibly is assessment. My thoughts on this were also pretty inspired by last week's Moonshot session on accountability and incentives for DEI. And in particular, Dr. Johnson was talking during that session about, well, how do we measure more nebulous, more emotional concepts like belonging or a feeling of inclusion? Just because we say we want students to feel included in the library, intention is only half of it. That doesn't mean that they necessarily do. So that's something I would like to do, is figure out some ways to get a sense of how do students feel about being in the library. We do have a student advisory board that meets sometimes with the dean of the library, but thus far there's only been a small amount of students, so I wouldn't say that it's great that we have them for ideas and feedback and all that, but I'm not sure if they're representative of the student body as a whole. And that is everything I had to say. So now we are at the discussion period. So any questions, ideas of things we're not doing that we could be doing? We're always interested in more campus partnerships. So if you have ideas along that line, please let me know.
Well, Christiana, I think this was a great presentation. I know, it was starting to trend across the country is that librarians are having less say in terms of what resources they can put on the shelves in many of the libraries, including in right here in our region in Johnson City. And so I really appreciate the work that you do in this space. I think providing resources that's not always the mainstream resources give folks an option to learn about communities and cultures that may be different than what they are accustomed to. So appreciate what you do.
Thanks so much. And I really appreciate you all at the Office of Equity and Inclusion for thinking about the library and inviting me to have this opportunity to share.
Christiana?
Yes?
Oh, good. I finally got my phone to work. I just want to say, on behalf of all of us at Sherrod, we really do appreciate your leadership in DEI, as well as your colleagues on this call and others. And I'm glad we had an opportunity to share some of the things that we have underway on campus. So thank you for doing this for everyone.
Thanks so much. So I did realize I skipped a slide in my presentation. If everyone has them, yes. I talked so much about open and affordable course materials that I skipped over the collection development policy. So if everyone has a minute, I will explain that. It is definitely relevant to inclusive materials and what Dr. Johnson was just talking about. So if you're not familiar, a library's collection development policy is a document where we lay out the rules and guidelines for what we collect and what we don't collect, what areas or formats are a priority, what do we do with gifts, all those kind of things, because of course we can't buy or keep everything in the world as much as we might like to. So we have to have a document laying out how we do that. And a committee of library employees met to revise this document last year. And I was tasked with adding a diversity, equity, and inclusion statement. So if this is not legible to you, I will read it. So I said, the ETSU mission and values state that ETSU affirms the contributions of diverse people, cultures, and thought to intellectual, social, and economic development. Accordingly, library collections are intentionally curated to reflect a rich diversity of opinions, perspectives, subjects, and identities, including materials created by and about those for marginalized groups. And we also, there was already something along these lines in here, but we looked over the intellectual freedom statement as well to make sure we had some language in there about what we would do if we did have materials challenged. Fortunately, Sherrod hasn't really dealt with that. It's been less common historically in academic libraries in general, but this was all written before the Divisive Concepts Bill became law. So who knows what's going to happen now? I mean, hopefully nothing. I hope we don't get any challenges. And this is publicly available on the website. I've linked it here on the word policy, but I'm hoping it can just stay there. We'll just mind our own business and continue to buy diverse books. Okay, so that was the one addendum to my presentation. Any questions or comments about this or anything else I talked about?
Well, thank you so much, Christiana, for engaging with us today. This was a wonderful presentation. I know I was excited to see some of the resources that you have for students. And a lot of times our students aren't aware of what's available to them. And I think that is a part of sense of belonging. So thank you so much for this presentation. This is our final Lunch and Learn for the summer. We do have a town hall coming up in August, and I'll let Dr. Johnson fill us in a little bit more about that. And then also, if everyone can complete the survey evaluation, this allows us to continue to plan and have more great speakers like Christiana. So thank you so much for attending today.
Yeah, I guess regarding the town hall, we're going to be making an announcement here probably before the end of the week, but we will be informing the campus of the new laws or the amended law or divisive concepts. Just to make sure that, you know, folks feel comfortable doing what they're doing. So that's going to be, I think is August the 20th. Kim, do you know the date of that we've established at this point?
It's August 21st,
Okay.
3:30 in the afternoon in the Forum in the Culp Student Center.
So we will announce that campus wide, and then there will be other convenings where we will give some updates. So in your units, if you're in the library, you represent a specific college. If you would like someone to come and just kind of walk through very specific things as it pertains to your area, you can reach out as well. I've been working in collaboration with Mark Folks, our general counsel at the university, and we're prepared to do those across campus in addition to the town hall that we're going to have. So again, thank you all for participating today and supporting our DEI efforts. I know sometimes it's not very easy with some of the pushback that we're getting, but again, I thank you for the work that you do to make access something that's reality. So take care and have a wonderful week.
Thanks again. Bye-bye, everyone.
All right, bye-bye.